Of course, but I'm kind of surfing the web right now.
When I was about 3 months into it, I was approached one day. Now, what happens is there's a podium speaker that speaks to a group of 12
couples,
fresh couples, fresh meat. Okay? And each couple has a liner, as you know. Mm-hmm. It's always a Mexican. It's always a Mexican liner, and almost invariably an American closer. That's how it works.
Right.
And the split was 8. It was 8% of the gross, and it was 4.8 to the closer, 3.2 to the liner. That's how it worked. Anyway, there was always a podium speaker, and at that point, I was so freaking green. I mean, I still had stuff hanging off my ears, and I was surrounded by piranhas. I mean, you want to talk about a Shark Tank? My God. Anyway, one day Barry, I forget his last name. Barry came up to me. He was the assistant manager. He said, "Grossman, you're doing the next podium." Now remember, I've been there for 3 months. I don't know shit. He wants me to talk to the group of people about timeshare. Okay? I said, "Barry, I can't do that. I don't know enough." He said, "If you don't do it, you're fired." It was that simple. And he turned and walked away. And I knew he was serious.
Yeah, right.
Because the guy I worked for, Mark Perner, was like a Nazi. So I got up, and by the seat of my pants, now here was the advantage. The podium speaker always got to choose their couple. That was one of the advantages.
So you got to pick the one, you got to,
yes,
you got
and you would watch, and you would watch the body. You'd watch the body. You'd watch the body language, and you know when you saw that couple leaning over the table,
that they were like really.
They were in. When you saw them like this, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was my first podium. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I picked a couple literally in front of me, and I sold $41,000 worth of timeshare with a little bit of help from a seasoned closer. I remember making like $1,925 on the deal, and I was hooked. I was freaking hooked. I had never spoken to a group of people in my life, basically, and now all of a sudden, I sold $41,000 worth of timeshare, and I was excited. So at that point, I just said, well, I'm going to learn how to speak to groups. And I'm thinking, well, what actually is this? Is this timeshare? What else could we call it? Well, it could be fractional ownership. So, and that's a term that was bounded around a little bit.
Yeah, now it's more a more everyday term.
But back then,
yeah,
timeshare was just the word, and
right.
fractional. But timeshare had a still back then because it was the Wild West and it was incredible.
Could be, yeah.
So fractional ownership I started using, and what happened was I developed my own shtick, and what I did with Jim was just I just did a little bit of what I would say. So I'd get up there and I'd say, "Good morning, my name is Dave Grossman. I'm the podium speaker, and by the way," when I used the word speaker, the liners would always fucking laugh because I was using the actual term. So I would say it in English, but I'd say it in Spanish. they'd always laugh because I'd always say speaker, not inter.
Like an actual
exactly, and they thought that was hysterical.
Versus a person.
Thank you. That I was
like he called himself the speaker of the law.
It was like.
Because the Spanish
it was a personal joke because I mean I knew it was wrong, but after a while we all got a kick out of it. So
Americans knew any different.
So and the Americans had no idea exactly. So what happened is people would come in, and I would start immediately and say, "Welcome, folks. I have a question for you. How many of you flew down here? Raise your hand."
Almost 90%.
Okay. A question for you: did you rent the plane yourself, or did you travel with other people?
I traveled with other people.
Why did you travel with other people?
Because.
Were you able to rent the plane yourself?
No, I wasn't.
No, you weren't, okay? Folks, that is a fractional ownership concept. That's a timeshare concept. We're all pitching in to share time to fly down here. Could you do this yourself? No. So everybody goes, no. But what happened was that nobody else had used that line. But almost everybody flew down there.
Right.
And so what happened was, all of a sudden, the very first thing that I said actually made a lot of sense. Now, obviously, I said it a little stronger and a little more concise because I haven't done this in years.
Right.
But the point was, people really took notice of the concept of sharing time on an airplane. Well, folks, can you buy this hotel yourself? No, you can't. What must you all do? I mean, I was on. What must we all do? We all have to share the time, share the clock. So the body language would change, okay? And folks, question for you. What's the last movie you saw? It's okay.
Let's just say Spider-Man.
Okay, I have a question for you. How much did it cost to make that movie?
I don't know. A lot.
Can we say at least 50 million, maybe more?
Yeah.
How much did it cost you to see this movie?
$8.
I have a question for you. How did you get to see a movie that cost $50 million to make and it only cost you $8? How did that happen?
Functional ownership?
That's right. In other words, it takes a lot of people spending $8 to get the movie. And everybody would agree. And then all of a sudden, I became like, and I don't mean this in an ego sense, but what happened was I got so good at it, and I was so fucking into it, that I was like speaking 2 or 3 times a day.
They're like, Dave's going to do the next podium.
Yeah, and so the point was I was able to early on take things that we did on a regular basis, flying, movies, and integrally mix them with our lives and sharing the cost of vacation time. And I did really well. And I loved it. And what it did was, it actually got me into public speaking. After that, I got into talking to large groups of people for many years after that. I can still do it. But that was the pivotal, that was a life changer right there. And then, did I tell you what the Mexicans, my nickname was?
No.
It was Mr. AT&T. Okay,
Oh, yeah, because
I'd be on the phone, there was nobody there, and I'd be talking to Irvine, California.
The closer.
And the Mexicans couldn't understand how I could do this for 10, 15 minutes at a time. There's nobody there. And I was having a conversation with allegedly corporate.
Yeah.
The customers.
Oh, let me call corporate. We'll see if we can get this handled.
They said.
Well, it was very ballsy. And you know what? I have to tie something in. I think you guys will appreciate it. The reason why I was probably slow to start to bring you guys in is because I was allowed to do, I really want you to hear this, I was allowed to do my own drops at the table. And when I did a drop, I would make them puke at 15.5 for 1 week, and I would hold at 15.5, and they'd vomit continuously. Nobody wants to pay $15,500 for 1 week of timeshare, and I wouldn't let them off the hook. I was trained not to let them off the hook. And when I went ahead and, you know what I'd do? I'd say, folks, there's nothing I can do, and I am so sorry. I'm gonna get you guys back on vacation. 70% of the deals were after I said,
it's a
I'm going to get
It's the same as your takeaway.
Well, but you know what else? But what else would happen? Not only was it a takeaway, but what else was happening with them? They were being completely let off the hook, and they were done. And in that moment, they completely dropped and relaxed. It was like, oh, this guy's done with us. Thank goodness.
It's
Folks,
the takeaway, though. That's the same thing the takeaway is.
I have a question
Maybe
for
you
you.
shouldn't get that car. I don't think you should buy an Accord.
Leather's just not for you. I mean, if you're wanting.
We all want what we
think
can't
we should-
have.
Maybe
I
we should
think
look
you
at
should-
that Impreza, base Impreza instead of the WRX.
And of
I don't
course-
need to say the WRX. You need to look over at this
And of course,
one.
I get that from you guys, but I wanted you to know why. I may have been a little slow to start to do that with you. It wasn't out of ego. It was that for 13 years.
No wonder you're so full of shit, Dave.
Thank you. For 13 years, I was doing these.
You were in this dispute shit.
You know, and you know what? I see some of the little common tendencies. It's like when we ask Dave a question, the whole timeshare comes like, oh, let
You
me
can't answer a question.
let me think.
Across the board, but don't make that across the board.
Let me
Let me think.
let me think. I had a really busy day today. I mean, there's probably 15 timeshares I signed up today. Which area were you talking
Which
about?
couple were you talking about?
I believe.
Which unit were you looking at?
I believe I can do that. Yes.
All right, that's good. That's very fucking good.
So what I want you to do, Dave, I want you to, when you're at home
That's
sometime
hysterical.
and you're bored, I want you to think of some other parallel similarities that worked for you very well there.
I will do that.
And I don't necessarily want you to try every one. I want you to run them by us first.
I will do that.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah, we'd like to be informed on these timeshare closes.
All right, that's cool.
Before,
But I want you to think of some similarities. I mean, just
I
like you
will.
said, that takeaway.
I will.
Because to me, that was a very big, out of all of that, that's very relevant still today. And if you do that 90% of the time, 70% of the time, just like you said.
before you even come talk to us, they have some
If-
unrealistic offer, or
Just say, I don't
Right.
think so. Maybe we're on too much car. Maybe we better go look at the
I'll do that.
pre-owned.
And you
The
can
guy
fun
gets
with
you-
me doing that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
please, because that's going to get them back more on the right path
Yeah.
and make it
And
better
I
for
can
you and us.
easily do that.
Yeah, if they start going, this.
just
Accord's
remember when they
24
start to talk
grand.
price, when they start to talk price, you go, well, these are very popular vehicles. I mean, the first thing I need to do is check the availability of the vehicle. I have 20 salespeople, an internet department that are all trying to
They're
sell the
taking
same
deposits
cars.
all the time, and this
I gotta
car,
make sure the car's
in
available.
fact, could be sold
And then
already. So let me see if it's
You
available.
go from talking about price to,
I got it.
oh, well, shit, I hope the car's available.
You know what that's like? You want week 32, don't you? My God.
That's a
week
very tough. Yeah, exactly.
See?
Draw those conclusions.
I don't
Draw
think,
those conclusions.
I don't think that week 32 is available. Is there another week that you'd like? What would you like? Anyway,
So same thing. Yes, I want you to apply those, and then
I will.
if it's
Thank
very
you.
relevant like that, please use it. But
Let me check the availability of week
let me
30.
see the availability of that
It's the
WRX.
same thing.
You want the WRX manual transmission.
It's very popular.
Oh, you want the
Ooh.
Outback.
I'm just going to tie this. Gentlemen,
Mm.
thank you for weaving this together with me. Okay?
No problem, Dave.
I appreciate that. And so what happened is...
We know you have a lot of talent, Dave. We
Thank
do.
you. It's just a matter of having it come out again.
Just have it directed in the right
Agreed,
direction.
completely. And so what would happen is I would do from 15.5, and they would, the word was...
They're on the ceiling. They're on the
Make them puke. I was drilled into me.
Same thing. Put
Hold
them
it
on the ceiling.
15.5, hold it, and nobody sold timeshare to 15.5 for 1 week. That was outrageous. And they'd puke and puke and puke, but I'd hold and hold and hold. Then when I got on the phone with Mr. Nobody in Irvine, California, Mr. AT&T, and they actually, literally, that was my nickname, Mr. AT&T. And they did diagrams of me on the phone, like they did little. Anyway, I would drop to about 8,200 or sometimes 7,600. It was a radical
Half
drop.
price.
Radical drop.
And then
And what happened was, yes, a lot of the time, because I held so well and lined them, I lined them also, but closed them, they would go, okay, we'll take that repo. Of course, it's not a fucking repo. There's no such thing as a repo. But it's a great word. Because it's not fee simple. You don't own it, so you can't repo it. It's just time. But the point is the word worked.
Right.
The word worked. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Dave.
and
Thank
I
you
have-
for sharing.
some of your
The
past with
timeshare.
us.
I have a lot of other things too, but
I know,
we'll do that when time.
Yeah,
time
we'll
allows.
we'll have another thing. Thank you, Dave.
All right, thanks.
That's all for now.
That was actually fun.